Yo, 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 what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? How y'all doing, everybody? Welcome to Cash Media once again. I'm back, and you know what it is, man. I'm here. I want to talk about some more sports. But let me bring up a screen so y'all not just looking at this, right? So I'm gonna touch on some things. I'm definitely gonna talk basketball, right? Obviously. Um, but I also want to get into another sport, hopefully, um, before anybody prefers to join the panel. And it's going to be boxing, right? Because we know what's going down. And if you don't, I'm going to keep you informed, right? So, another thing that I want to do before I get into any topics, um, like and subscribe to the video, man. Like and subscribe, hit that bell, that notification button, and of course, welcome to Cash Media. All right, man. So let's get into this, right? So James Harden, as of right now, he's a Philadelphia 76er, right? But we all know what happened at the end of the season, right? Against the Boston Celtics, game 7. In the last 2 games, James Harden, he kind of showed his former self, I may say, right? But to be fair, James Harden he's been more good than bad, right? But the bad outweighs the good when you have a career like James Harden. Now, I always look at James Harden as a player that's kind of difficult to assess, right? Because he's better than your average player. I mean, he's way better than your average player, right? He's a sort of guy who's a transcendent talent, right? He's done a bunch of great things in the league. There's no doubt about it that James Harden was an NBA superstar. I think you can say was, safely, due to the level of his game right now. But I don't think it's too far off, right? I think James Harden is still a really, really great player, and he can virtually play anywhere, skill wise. But the problem is, that some people may look at it is his ego, right? And I'm gonna touch up on that, but I want to discuss what you guys see up on the screen right now. So James Harden apparently wants to reunite with Russell Westbrook. There isn't a big market for James Harden after he had requested a trade, right? But the only team that he's interested in are the Clippers, right? So the Clippers do have interest in James Harden, right? But they're not willing to give up first round picks in Terrence Mann, right? So that could be objective, right? Would I do it? Probably, considering the roster, depending on what you give up. I mean, depending on what the Clippers give up, I think it's worth it, especially with the situation that the Clippers are in, right? They have Kawhi Leonard, Paul George. They traded a lot for Paul George, right? Because that's what Kawhi Leonard wanted, right? But the Clippers have been injured, over the past couple of years. They haven't been able to make a deep playoff run because, they've been hit with the injury bug, right? Now, where James Harden wanted to go to the Clippers, I mean, I want to say it's a surprise, but it isn't, right? I mean, come on. I mean, James Harden has requested a trade from 3 teams so far, Rockets, Nets, and then now the 76ers. And honestly, I think this one just looks a little bit more bad on him, especially with the 2 games that he had horrific shooting percentages, right? I mean, the 76ers literally had that series in the bag. They were up one game. They had 2 games to dead the series, and they flopped at home. They flopped. Was it at home? No, I'm sorry. They flopped in Boston, right? So they had game 6 at home. And James Harden did James Harden things, right? So I want to give James Harden the benefit of the doubt, right? A part of me doesn't, because as a Brooklyn Nets fan, I just want to say, forget this guy. He doesn't he doesn't mean anything to us anymore. But given the subject and the topic, I do want to elaborate on this as much as possible, right? Now, we do know why James Harden is doing this. We know why James Harden is doing this. James Harden wants to win a ring, apparently, right? But as his career just goes on and on and on, it's starting to seem like that's a very, very unlikely thing to happen, right? It's looking like it's not going to happen unless James Harden can either one, step up when it matters, two, get on a team with a really, really good roster. Now, my assessment on James Harden, at least in the past couple of years, right? I'll say in the past 2-3 years, I think James Harden had plenty of opportunities. I think with the Houston Rockets, I definitely think it's debatable, right? I mean, going against the Golden State Warriors one year, being against, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, right? We know all that jazz, but, they came relatively close, right? So I'm not going to beat them up there. But the 2 years, honestly, I would even say 3, right? Both the years with the 76ers, right? 76ers losing to the Miami Heat last year. And then this year, right, losing to the Boston Celtics, right? And then in both those games, he had horrific numbers in crucial games, right? And then in the Brooklyn Nets series, right, or the year when he was on the Brooklyn Nets, everybody had anticipated that the Brooklyn Nets would go to the NBA Finals, right? A lot of us did, myself included. But the problem is, right, that whole situation with Kyrie Irving. Now, can I completely blame James Harden for the situation? Absolutely not, right? Kyrie Irving deserves way more blame in this situation, for why that Brooklyn Nets team, got dismantled. But, my assessment was, the way I looked at it, was that James Harden should have at least given this team, a chance. He should have at least given it a try. He was going to be a free agent regardless, right? He was going to be able to go to whatever team he wanted to, right? But the reason why the Brooklyn Nets traded him for Ben Simmons was simply because of the fact that they didn't want to give up James Harden for nothing, right? They did not want to give up James Harden for nothing. And that's completely understandable, right? But the thing about it is, it's just, you didn't even give it a chance, right? James Harden didn't even give it a chance, for real, right? We know that first year, with Kyrie Irving, KD, and James Harden. Kyrie Irving was hurt. I believe he broke an ankle. And then James Harden had he tore his hammy. So it was really it was really Kevin Durant and everybody else with an injured James Harden going against the NBA champions of that year, the Milwaukee Bucks, because that was the year the Milwaukee Bucks had went on their title run and beat the Phoenix Suns in the NBA Finals, right? Now, he was hurt, so, take that as you will. But, if you go deeper into the situation, then you'll start to see, James Harden doesn't really deserve as much leeway in this situation, right? Especially, with that year, when James Harden put on the fat suit, to try to get traded. And then he finally got to the Brooklyn Nets. And then all that karma just started catching up with him, man. It especially in a sport like basketball, right, where you're playing as many games as you are in a single year, and how taxing it could be. Even at times, how physical basketball can be, right? And especially with James Harden, he's a playmaker, he's a ball handler, he's a perimeter player. So majority of the time, he's going to be running up and down the court, going to be all over the place, setting guys up, doing his ISO moves, all that jazz. Like, even now, we haven't really even seen James Harden really take it to the rim, right? He's not that same type of scorer that we had seen in previous years, when he was with the Houston Rockets and some stints with the Brooklyn Nets. Right. But this isn't a time for me to really kind of look at this situation and beat up on Harden as much as possible. But my point is, right, will James Harden be traded from the 76ers? And I honestly don't think so. Given the rumors around the league and being that the Clippers are really the only team that would consider him. But then again, why would you really? He's requested a trade from 3 teams. He's flopped in the playoffs, right? So you have a situation with the Clippers where you have 2 guys, right? Paul George is known for getting injured, right? Kawhi Leonard, once again, is known for getting injured, right? So what? You're going to have James Harden and Russell Westbrook leading your squad? That's a very head scratching situation. Not to say that they wouldn't be a good team. I think they would be a great team. But my thing about it is, it's not a championship level talent. It's not a championship talent team, right? If you guys know where I'm coming from, if you guys feel where I'm coming from, it's just not a championship team. Especially with the way the Denver Nuggets looked in last year's playoffs or in this year's playoffs. I don't see a team like the Clippers beating a team like the Denver Nuggets unless they're fully healthy, right? You got to have all these guys on the roster playing in order to have any confidence moving forward, right? But I think the best scenario is for James Harden to just simply stay on the 76ers. I mean, why would you leave, right? He has a really good situation. He's the point guard. He's the ball handler, right? The only other guy playing in the 2 spot is Tyrese Maxey, who's a young player, or Shaq Milton, who's coming off the bench, right? More so for his defensive presence, right? So why would James Harden want to leave the 76ers? You're playing alongside an MVP player like Joel Embiid, right? And we acknowledge that Joel Embiid did not play well, in this year's playoffs, right? And you could probably make the excuse that Joel Embiid was hurt, right? I think he was. He definitely wasn't playing the same way that he did in the regular season, right? So even if you look at his numbers in the playoffs compared to what he was doing to the Boston Celtics in the regular season, it's not the same thing, right? He wasn't being as aggressive. He was letting Al Horford lock him down. And don't get me wrong, Al Horford is a really great defender. But at the level that we had seen him guard Joel Embiid, right, in the closing minutes of the game, I don't believe that was Joel Embiid at 100%. But that's just another year and another injury for Joel Embiid, right? So you got to go into this situation. You have to go into this year with a lot of optimism. If you're the 76ers, if you're James Harden, if you're Joel Embiid, right? You have to look at this year as a year of growth. You have to acknowledge, right, that there is a level up that you would have to obtain, right? So, and that's the thing about James Harden, right? He's a great player. He gets guys involved. And for some strange reason, hey, what's up, Al Money? Yes, sir. Welcome back, man. But yeah, man. So, with James Harden, right? And this team, I mean, they have a good bunch of guys on here, right? Tobias Harris, people try to shit on him as much as possible. They don't think he was worth the money. I mean, and I can understand that, right? I can understand the whole Tobias Harris situation, but he's a power forward who can shoot, right? He can shoot the three relatively well, not great, but well, right? And he can defend. We've seen him guard some of the best wing players in the game. Now, it's not no lockdown, it's not no lockdown business, but he's able to do his job, right? James Harden is surrounded by defensive players and guys who can score. Joel Embiid being the primary player for that, right? So I feel as if the Philadelphia 76ers have the formula to succeed. They just didn't, right? You had Joel Embiid shit the sheets, right? Another year. And then James Harden, once again, shit the sheets as well, right? So if you had just one of those guys actually do something in that series, right? Not the series, the last two games, if you had any of them do anything in those last two games, maybe you could have maybe went on to the next round. I mean, this was the year for the 76ers. Let's be honest. This was the year for them to go to the NBA Finals, right? We were supposed to see the Nuggets and the 76ers, Jokic versus Embiid in the NBA Finals. That was the favorite matchup that Vegas was betting on, right? That was the favorite right there. And they had it. They could have beaten the Boston Celtics. They definitely could have beaten the Miami Heat, even though they lost to the Miami Heat the previous year in the playoffs, and James Harden put on the same performance that he had this year, last year, or the year before, right? So these are, I see this as things that's an easy fix, right? This is easily fixable, right? James Harden, all he has to do is just freaking play better, be aggressive, get guys involved, right? Be the leader on the court, right? Because the way I see it, right, Joel Embiid, yes, he has the intangibles of the leader, right? He's the young guy. He's a superstar. He's the A1 guy on the court. But James Harden has the experience. He has the fervor, right? He's the guy who's gotten a boatload of money, who was previously an NBA MVP, right? He has all the intangibles that you would want. You just got to throw in the character in there, man. You have to be that guy, that character in the court, on the court, in the locker room, and then have your teammates feed off you, man. Y'all see what I'm saying? Like, I don't look at Tyrese Maxey as that guy to carry the 76ers to the next level, right? He's supposed to more so be a supporting member for either of these two guys, right? You don't need James Harden and Joel Embiid to go off. One of them is good enough, but then you can still have Maxey throwing a couple haymakers here and there. But Maxey isn't, the real issue here, because I view him as a young player, right? He's going to come into his own. But James Harden is a player who's already fully established. So for him to get traded from the 76ers, I, for one, don't think it's a good look. I think it's a bad move. And honestly, I think just staying, James Harden staying on the 76ers would be the best move. And then they can capitalize from there, right? They got a new coach, Nick Nurse, right? He was fired from the Toronto Raptors. I think this would be a great look. Maybe, get a different offense, get a different scheme in there, see how it plays out. At least wait until the trade deadline for us to see how this is going to go. But this is James Harden, though. We don't know. He could put on the fat suit again. He can go into this season looking like Big Mama. We don't know, man. So we're going to have to wait and see. So let me know, man. What do you guys think? You think James Harden gets traded in the offseason? You guys think he goes to the Los Angeles Clippers or another team? All right. So I got a video of Joel Embiid because Rachel Nichols had asked him about the situation with James Harden requesting a trade. So let me pull this up right here for you guys to watch, and we're gonna talk about it.
And James told.
Ooh.
How did you feel when James told you, or someone told you, that he wanted to be out of Philadelphia?
Disappointed, but then again, I also understand, it's business. People make decisions, and and I'm more appreciative of the way he's handled the whole situation. We're gonna be boys forever. Want him to come back, obviously, so we can go out and accomplish what we want, which is to win a championship. So hopefully that his mindset can be changed. But other than that, I'm just so happy to be. It's fun. We close and we've grown since he got here, and that's what I'm excited about. And I'm excited to keep that friendship for the rest of our lives.
How did you feel when?
All right, yeah. So there it goes. I mean, honestly, it's almost like almost like Ben Simmons 2.0. In all honesty, bro, that's how this situation really looks. Like it's like Ben Simmons 2.0. Like the fact that he's just requesting a trade, and I mean, Joel Embiid has every right to feel disappointed, man. I mean, he went just 2 years ago going through the same situation with Ben Simmons, and then now you have another star requesting a trade from the 76ers. I mean, who does this fall on, though? Is this solely on James Harden? Is it on the 76ers organization? Who's to really blame here in this whole situation? Obviously, the coach always gets scapegoated, right? For a long time, people have debated that Doc Rivers should have been fired, but now he is, right? But James Harden still wants to leave, right? And then everywhere James Harden goes, he has a problem with somebody, right? With somebody, man. Like, come on, man. Like, why? Why? I, for one, just want to see great basketball. I want to see the best players on the best teams be able to compete against the best teams, right? And I don't think a situation like this helps anybody. Definitely doesn't hurt the 76ers. I mean, it could help the Clippers if James Harden was on the Clippers, right? But going back to what Joel Embiid said, right? I mean, I agree with Joel Embiid 100%. You would want this guy back on your team, right? They have great chemistry. It works for one, right? They just have to finish, right? They have to finish. They have to finish the job. And that's what they didn't do against the Boston Celtics. I didn't look at that series and say that this team wasn't good enough. But I can say they didn't want it bad enough. James Harden definitely didn't want it bad enough, right? Joel Embiid, fair or not, he didn't want it bad enough. You can base it off his play, even though you can probably say he was injured. More than likely he was injured. He didn't want it bad enough, right? So it is what it is, man. It is what it is with this whole Philadelphia 76ers situation. I mean, there it goes, right? But just to give off, a couple of things that James Harden has done since he's been in the league, throw out a couple of things in there, right? So over the past 10 years, James Harden has 521 wins, regular season and playoffs. These are the only guys who have over 500 wins in the past 10 years. Nobody else has 500. LeBron James had 516, Klay Thompson 519, James Harden 521, Chris Paul 521, Danny Green 540, Steph Curry 552, and then Draymond Green 567. So, I mean, with James Harden, I mean, we know a good portion of those wins were on the Houston Rockets. So James Harden is going to win games. He's going to help you win games. But at some point in time, it's just all going to collapse all at the same time. It's gonna fall hard, right? So he can have like those over 500 wins, but he's gonna have those. I'll throw a number out there: 13 losses, and those will probably be Harden's worst games of his career, right? Those losses will probably be the worst losses he's ever had, statistically, right? So James Harden wins games. It's just those certain games, those certain matchups, right? Heat, a team that's a defensive team. They're gonna know how to guard Harden. He was an ISO player, right? Boston Celtics, right? They're a young, aggressive team who can play with James Harden, right? So they're gonna give him that tough matchup. They're gonna make him work. And honestly, Boston Celtics, this was a very up and down year for them. They started off great, ended the year off going on the downtrend. During the playoffs, there was a lot of up and downs, but they still found a way to make it to the conference finals. But it was definitely winnable, man. It was definitely winnable, right? And let me throw in another thing out there. Most 50-point games of all time. James Harden has 23. That's only 2 behind Kobe Bryant, right? I don't know if he beats Kobe Bryant's record, to be honest. I don't think he does. I think he's past that level where he's going to be dropping 50. I think he can do it. I just don't think he's going to beat Kobe, right? And then obviously you got Wilt Chamberlain being number 1. He's going to have the most 50-point games out there, right? So, and we all know this was during the time, when James Harden was going stupid, right? He was averaging like over 30 points a game, 30, 35 points a game, right? He was putting up crazy numbers, right? But this was a whole different offense then. That's when he had Mike D'Antoni as a head coach, the guy who didn't care about defense, right? So that's it for that one. All right, so yeah, man, it's unfortunate, but we're gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to wait and see. There's still a lot of time before basketball kicks off, and then it's gonna be interesting to see where James Harden potentially goes next. Hopefully, he stays with this team, and we like to still see a competitive Eastern Conference. Right. So now let's move on to another thing, which is the NBA Summer League. Right. So, there's been a couple things that I can touch on, not too much that I want to touch up on because I haven't gotten the opportunity to watch all of these Summer League games, but I'm going to touch up on a couple of different things. One thing that I do know is that the Cleveland Cavaliers won the Summer League championship. With Isaiah Mobley, right, being the guy to win the MVP for the award, right? So, and there you have it, right? Let me pop this up for you right now, right? So, the Cleveland Cavaliers were undefeated, 6-0, right? So they had a decent enough, they had a good young squad. They got some players coming up trying to do their thing. Now, I don't put too much stock into the Summer League, right? You hit or miss. Hey, we seen Anthony Bennett. Hey, actually, I'll put it like this. Go back and watch Anthony Bennett's Summer League highlights. I swear to God, you would not think this guy was a bust. Was one of the greatest busts of all time. You would not think that, I swear, just by watching his Summer League highlights, right? So that's one of the reasons why I don't put too much stock, right, on the Summer League. But a couple things that I do want to take away from, right, a couple players that did stand out in the Summer League, and one of them being Jabari Smith Jr., right? He had really great games in the Summer League. I mean, he stood out. He did his thing. He scored a total of 71 points in 64 Summer League minutes, right? So, and I'm gonna talk about some numbers too. So, Smith's 3-point game was actually the least remarkable part of the league of the summer. Sorry, 6 for 18. His player efficiency rating was 35.9, was the best of all Vegas summer leaguers, although Murray topped it in the California Classic and was even more notable given how he struggled in his rookie season in Houston. One hopes with a point guard and a better surrounding talent, it can carry over into a breakout sophomore season, right? So yeah, he had a couple good games, right? Something to kind of boast about. Jamar Smith Jr. I mean, he's a rookie. He's a rookie at the end of the day. So it's always I always look at it as an adjustment. But going into the sophomore year, you got some stripes. You got some stripes now, so you can work with. You have a lot of things to work with now. You're familiar with how things operate, and so now you can go into your sophomore league, your sophomore season with a lot more confidence, with an improved game, and then obviously working on your craft, during this time frame, right? So it's going to be exciting to see how the Houston Rockets, really turn out to be, this season. Right, because we know that the head coach, Ime Udoka, who was previously the head coach for the Boston Celtics, is going to be leading this young team. And then, the Houston Rockets have a bunch of young guys, right, who have hella potential, right? They have so much potential, right? They got one of the twins. They drafted one of the twins, Cam Whitmore, who was projected to be a top NBA draft prospect. Slid down in the draft, and then the Rockets were able to steal him, right? And then even in this summer league, he was averaging a good 20 points per game, in the summer league, right? So there's definitely going to be some things that I'm going to be paying attention to when it comes down to the Houston Rockets. I mean, nobody's thinking that they're going to be, a finals contending team, but they're a young team, so it's going to take time. It's going to definitely take defense. Houston Rockets weren't known for being a defensive team, but I think having Ime Udoka as the head coach is going to turn things into a new chapter, right? Another thing, I mean, hey, we got to talk about it, right? Something that's been, at the headline for a good portion of the season is Victor Wembanyama, right? Victor Wembanyama has been the story all season long when it's come down to the draft, right? So let me just read off what I'm looking at here. So do you know which first round rookie who played at least 2 games and had the best PER of any player in the summer league? No, it wasn't summer league MVP Cam Whitmore. Oh, by the way, he did win MVP. Or either the Thompsons or Julian Strouder or Kobe Brown. It was Wembanyama. Wow. He struggled in his first game, but rumors of his demise were perhaps aggravated. Yes, he looked out of shape after mostly shutting things down to do a media tour after his season in France ended. But his second game in particular showed why he expected to be an instant force for the Spurs. Wembanyama had 27 points, 12 rebounds, and 3 blocks in just 27 minutes against Charlotte, even while leaving money on the table via 5 missed free throws. While he need more work on overall lower body strength and technique in holding his position on post-ups and warding off defenders to receive entry passes, most of his other skills we saw in France translated immediately. He blocked 8 shots in 54 minutes and repeatedly drew fouls on jump shots from defenders desperately trying to get anywhere close to his release point, and his globe-sized dunk radius allowed him to finish any catch made even remotely close to the rim. This was just a taster, mind you, based on what I'd seen from him in person and on tape. This was at the low end of expectations. Player development pathways are never perfectly predictable, but Wembanyama has as much upside as any rookie since LeBron James. Right? So, yeah, I mean, I talked about Victor Wembanyama in previous videos, but I see the talent there. I see the growth, right? And I think Victor Wembanyama is in a perfect situation. right? He's with the Spurs. He has the coach. He has the front office, which is extremely important. I feel like a player going into a franchise, I feel like the most important thing going into a franchise is the front office, right? Being able to know that your front office, that the guys above can put around, the right personnel so that this team can be competitive. Now, is that the case now? We don't know. I think that's gonna be judged with time with the Spurs. But I think as of right now, they're more worried about, the player development with Victor Wembanyama. I mean, we've heard that, in that first game, he didn't look too great. I don't think it's too much to beat him up about, but that's because, you got to get your feet wet. You gotta, you gotta, you got to get the feel out there, right? And so, there was a lot of eyes on him. People were expecting a lot in that first game, and I think he just got a little bit overwhelmed. But going into that second game, right, he completely flipped the script, right? You seen them 27 points. I mean, I think he had 10 points in the fourth quarter, and then two crucial threes in the second half, right? So it was a good performance for Victor Wembanyama. It was definitely assuring, and it gave Spurs enough confidence to sit him out for the rest of the summer league, right? So it's going to be very important to see how the Spurs develop him, moving forward. But I have no doubt that that Greg Popovich is going to put him in the correct position to succeed. All right, so I'm just leave it at that, and then let's touch upon something else. All right, so Denver's draft class shines. Whew. All right, so I'm gonna just skim through this. So the Nuggets strategy of intentionally going old with latest draft picks was certainly interesting, but it also may prove effective. If Summer League was any indication, the early returns of all three of the defending champs picks were excellent, as Strawher, Jalen Pickett, and Hunter Tyson all played well in Vegas. In particular, Tyson, the last player picked of the three at 37th, stood out. The stretch four from Clemson was lights out as a shooter, making 18 of 36 threes and 20 of 23 from the line. And the volume here is as important as the accuracy. He hosted a triple every 4 minutes and looked comfortable launching both on the move and off screens. More importantly, he did just as much damage inside the arc, moving off the ball and using his size to finish around the rim. Tyson wasn't just some limited catch and shoot guy. He was second in all of Summer League in total points. Add in solid defense and quick on-ball decisions, and he looked as plug and play into a rotation spot as any rookie at Summer League. His teammate Strawher, the Nuggets' lone first rounder at 29th, was an even more willing launcher with a Summer League high 47 three-point attempts, averaging one every 3 minutes. While not as prolific as Tyson inside the arc, he too managed to mix things up enough to generate a decent number of free throw attempts and shoot 12 for 23 inside the arc. Pickett, the 32nd pick out of Penn State, also had a solid summer and acquired taste as a smart, physical big guard. He handed out 28 assists against 10 turnovers and shot 20 of 35 inside the arc, perhaps at least as noticeable for a point guard, not renowned for his athleticism. He blocked 5 shots in 5 games, right? So it seems like the Denver Nuggets, right, they have a good draft class. And honestly, I'm not shocked neither, right? I mean, Nikola Jokic was a second-round pick, man, right? Like, we got to take note of that. So we know, or at least I know, that the Denver Nuggets know how to draft well. But like I said, man, I didn't catch too many of these games, so I'm going to just move on forward to the next thing, right? So here is another one. Right, Chet Holmgren, right? We all know about Chet Holmgren, man. He got injured last year, wasn't able to play this year, but now he's back and he's doing things, right? So let's tap into this, right? So after missing all of last season with an injury, Oklahoma City's Chet Holmgren returned and seemingly picked up where he left off the previous summer, posting very similar stats in a 4-game sample that included 2 games in Salt Lake City. In particular, his rim protection is still obviously elite as he swatted everything in the charge circle and deterred numerous attempts from even being tried. Over his 2 summer league campaigns spanning 9 games, he has blocked 4 shots per 36 minutes. Obviously, translating that rate directly to the regular season NBA production is a reach, but I will point out that the league-leading block rate in the NBA last year was Jaren Jackson Jr.'s 3.8 per 36 minutes, and only 7 players eclipsed 2.5 in more than 1,000 minutes. If Holmgren isn't in the top 5 in the league in this category next year, I'll be very surprised. Obviously, the small sample size theater in his stretch big qualifications maybe didn't go well. Holmgren made 1 of 11 from 3 and committed 15 turnovers in 4 games. Nonetheless, he scored inside the paint and drew fouls at a high rate, 26 free throw attempts in 4 games. Everything seems on track for his belated debut as the Thunder's starting center this fall. Right, so it's going to be very exciting to see, what Chet Holmgren is going to do this year. He was highly anticipated last year going into the season. It was just unfortunate that he got hurt. But I don't think a lot of people anticipated how good OKC was going to be, going into last year. I mean, they made the playoffs. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander put up phenomenal numbers last year. Right? What's his name? Ah, man, I forgot his name. It's the curly-headed white guy. I forgot his name, man. I'm sorry. That was just the best description I had at the time. Let me look at this roster. Josh Giddey. Sorry about that. All right, yeah. So Josh Giddey had a great year last year. Jalen Williams, right? He was starting to put his name in there for top rookies last year. So this team has a shit ton of potential moving forward. I mean, this team is young, but yet they were able to be so effective. In Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was scoring 30 points off of 50% shooting, right? So this team has a lot of upside. Chet Holmgren is literally the type of player that they're missing, right, when it comes to what they need on the court. So it's going to be very, very interesting, how everything comes together. But honestly, I'm going to say this. I wouldn't be surprised if Chet Holmgren were to win Rookie of the Year this year, right? It wouldn't surprise me. Now, I could see Victor Wembanyama, winning Rookie of the Year. But, you can never eliminate, some of these other guys that we don't know just yet, right? Anybody can come out and really do their thing, right? And I wouldn't be shocked if Victor Wembanyama doesn't play enough games, to even win the award. Because remember, players have to play a minimum of 65 games in order to be eligible, for accolades and awards, right? So there's that also. So, it's going to be a big question moving forward, but I wouldn't eliminate the fact that Chet Holmgren has a good chance of winning Rookie of the Year. But obviously, it's not just the defense. He's going to have to go stupid, on the offensive side of the ball, right? And threes being, one of the things that he's definitely going to have to prove upon, especially with the players that he's playing alongside with. There's a lot of guys, who's going to want the ball in their hands, right? Josh Giddey, obviously Shai Gill, Jalen Williams, he came into his own, so he earned his stripe. He's earned that much to be able to, have the ball in his hands also. So it's going to be interesting. So I think that's a tough take, but I wouldn't eliminate it, right? So going on to another thing, the Thompson twins emerge, right? You know what? I'm just gonna read that one, and I'll move on to the other thing that I wanted to talk about. The Thompson twins emerge. The biggest mystery of Summer League was how twin rookies, Amen and Assure, hopefully I said it right, the fourth and the fifth picks in the draft, respectively, would look after 2 years of playing at Overtime Elite. The early returns suggest their athleticism and defensive chops would allay any concerns of their iffy shooting. Amen Thompson got a chance to shine for just 1 game with Houston before an ankle sprain sidelined him. But he stuffed the stat sheet with 16 points, 5 assists, 4 blocks, 4 rebounds, and 3 steals, while showing obvious potential as a lockdown perimeter defender. There were some negatives. If you looked hard enough, some awkward finishes trying to get back to his left hand, some 2-footed takeoffs that got him in trouble, and I don't think 1 of 1 from 3 is big enough sample size to silence the doubters. But overall, it was an impressive performance that cemented the idea of picking him 4th was the right move. Ashore Thompson, right, got off to a slower start for a Detroit team that seemed intent on playing keep away from him in the first 2 games. But once he got started, he was really good. With 35 points, 23 rebounds over the final 2 games, like his brother, he showed plus defensive skills with 9 steals and 7 blocks in 4 games and popped as an athlete. That was the most notable in perhaps the 2 best dunks of the Summer League, a reverse transition dunk where he seemed to hover in midair while waiting for the pass to arrive, and a standstill tip dunk against San Antonio where he got his head rimmed high. That's it. All right, so let's check out this highlight.
Oh my gracious, box out. Ooh.
Oh, okay, yeah, I did see that.
Oh, just slid down
dunked on him, buddy. Man, come on, man. That's that Boondocks dunk, man. I know y'all know that episode when Riley was playing basketball. Right? So that's that, man. I don't got too much to really talk about these guys, man. I'm waiting for the season, bro. I'm waiting for the season. Come on, man. Might care about the Summer League. Nah, it was a good Summer League, though. I'll say that. It was a really, really good Summer League. Now, let's talk about the main event, right? Y'all already know what it is, man. I'm going to surprise y'all. With this because you know I got to talk about it. You know I got to talk about it, man. You know. I know I'm being obnoxious, but I got to do it like this. I got to, right? Y'all already know, man. Spence and Crawford. That's right, man. Y'all already know what it is. I effing love boxing, man. This is the fight that I've been freaking waiting for, right? Forget all that Jake Paul bullshit, right? I know I was talking him up before, but this is the fight I'm talking about. This is the fight I want to see, right? I've been waiting for this fight for years. I'm not even exaggerating. Literally, I've been waiting for this shit for years, right? I can't wait to see this fight. This is gonna be some shit. This is gonna give me goosebumps, man. These are 2 of the best fighters in the welterweight division since Floyd retired. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Crawford has been a dog. Spence has been a dog, right? So we gonna see what it really comes down to. Now, I'm not gonna give my predictions. I'm not gonna give my prediction now because I want to wait, till next week. The week of the fight for me to talk about it a little bit more. But at least I can give a little bit of background into the situation, right? So we know Spence Crawford has just been slaughtering dudes in the welterweight division, right? Terrence Crawford, if you look at his record, I mean, he's been knocking guys out. He's been running through guys, right? That's always been Terrence Crawford argument, right? Some may say that he's a faster opponent than Errol Spence. Some may say that he's a better boxer. I think that's very debatable and it's subjective, because we're talking about 2 top-level professional fighters here. So I wouldn't really say one guy is a better boxer since they haven't fought yet, right? I think that's a statement we would have to wait for when they actually fight. right? But you know, Spence is just that dog, man. He's been going through the best within the welterweight division. We know Terrence Crawford has been knocking guys out, having guys look stupid out there. But Crawford, but Spence is, he's fought with the best of them. He's fought with the best of them, right? He fought Sean Porter before Crawford did, even though Crawford beat him in very high fashion, I may say. Right, Spence was kind of going, battling with Sean Porter, but throughout the majority of the fight, Spence was out punching Sean Porter. Right? Who's the English guy that they fought or that Spence fought? I forgot his name. I hate when I forget names, man. This is why I gotta pull some of this stuff up. I'm sorry, I'm just pulling this up real quick. Kell Brook. Okay, there it is. Kell Brook, right? Kell Brook was an interesting fight. Very interesting fight. I mean, Errol Spence against Kell Brook. I believe Kell Brook, was that his first loss or his second loss? Because I know that he lost to Triple G. Yeah, he lost to Triple G first, and then he had 2 losses straight. So, I mean, basically, he lost to the top guys in the divisions, right? It was Triple G, Spence, and then Crawford, right? Spence, in his fight with Kell Brook, right? You can say that Kell Brook had a better performance against Spence than he did against Crawford, right? But the thing that I would like to highlight, though, and I recommend anybody to go back and watch that fight with Spence and Kell Brook. It was a great fight. Spence came out. It wasn't his best outing in the first couple rounds, but if you guys watch boxing, if you guys understand boxing, it's all about playing the long game. It's more so a marathon, pacing yourself, sticking to your game plan, and then Spence was able to adjust beautifully in that fight, right? He made very great adjustments, and that's why he was able to end it off the way he did, right? But Crawford, it was just no chance. Right, he had absolutely no chance with with Crawford, right? So, and then with Lamont Peterson, he slaughtered Mikey Garcia, right? Danny Garcia, right? He beat the brakes off that, off of Danny Garcia. It was a unanimous decision. Ugas, right? Spence only took that fight, because he wanted the WBA super welterweight title, right? So that was the reason why he took that fight to begin with, right? But then the situation here with what's going on? Sorry, come on. Yeah, so sorry, I freaking lost my train of thought because I messed up on something. But yeah, he fought Ugas because he wanted that title, and then Spence had he reiterated that before. He wanted to gather up all the titles all at once. So when he fights Crawford, it would be an undisputed unification, right? And I like to see things like that. I don't think I don't remember the last time we've seen an undisputed welterweight champion. Now, I know that Floyd was undefeated. Nobody beat him, right? Nobody beat him in the welterweight division, but Floyd did not get all the titles in the welterweight division, right? He didn't clean out the division when it came to the titles, but that's nothing to take away from Floyd, right? Your record triumphs all. Floyd's record is the overwhelming factor in this whole freaking thing, right? But the situation here, right, when you have two of these guys, Crawford and Spence, you're literally having 2 of the best guys go at it with each other. And this is for all the house cards. All the house cards, right? Now, my argument here with Crawford, and I think this is the only argument for Crawford, is that I don't think Crawford's opponents were as tough as Earl Spence Jr. That's my only thing that I can put on Crawford. That's the only thing I feel like I can put on Crawford. But the argument with Crawford is that the guys he was going against is literally piecing these dudes, right? He's beating the brakes off these dudes. I mean, just look at it, right? Look at his record right here, right? And I'm gonna pull this up. KO, right? KO, TKO, 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 KO, right? RTD, KO, right? This is oh man, how I get out of this? Oh man, I okay, all right. Sorry about that. Right. What was the last one? RTD against Felix Diaz, right? John Molina, TKO. Victor Pistol was the only guy recently that he had a unanimous decision. And I believe the reason why he fought Victor Pistol was, I think, he beat Manny Pacquiao, I believe, right? He had beaten Manny Pacquiao. So I think that was the reason why he took that fight. And then if you go down, Hank Lundy, TKO, 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 UD, KO, UD, TKO, UD, TKO, TKO, KO, KO, right? You get the picture. I don't think I have to keep elaborating here. I think you guys fully understand where I'm coming from, right? So this is going down. This is officially going down, right? This, as far as I'm concerned, this is the fight of the century. This is the fight of the century. I'm not going to lie to you, and I'm going to say it one more time. This is the fight of the century. This is the fight, bro. I know I'm gassing it up. You know, the promotion hasn't been out there like that. But trust and believe, man. If you love boxing, this is the fight. This is the fight right here. And I can't wait to see it. July 29th, Showtime, right? Is it on Showtime? Yeah, Showtime pay-per-view, right? Let me just throw in a couple things in there. That's in there. That I think you guys should at least see. All right, so we already know, right? Spence Crawford, the fight card. The main event is, you know, Crawford versus Spence. And Crawford is actually the favorite, being a -160, and Spence being the underdog with +135. That's kind of shocking, honestly. I thought it would be, you know, almost a little bit closer, but honestly, I think, I mean, in all honesty, I'm not an expert at odds, so that might be the minimum, but hey, correct me. Correct me in the comments. Isaac Cruz and Giovanni Cabrera in the lightweight division. Jesus Ramos versus Sergio Garcia in the junior middleweight. I'm not gonna pronounce this heavyweight fight, man. I'm sorry. I don't know how to pronounce these names, and I'm not gonna make myself look any more stupid or sound stupid. But yeah, man. Next week, July 29th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it. Get ready for it, because this is going to be the fight. The fight, right? My prediction is that this fight is probably going to do better than Ryan Garcia and Gervonta Davis, but that's just my prediction. I spoke to my guy. You know, I speak to my people in the background, and that's what I say. That's my statement, right? But we're going to see. We're going to see how it goes down. I'm excited for it. I hope you guys are excited for it, right? And stay tuned, right? So thank you guys once again for tuning into Cash Media. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. Please like and subscribe. If you guys are watching from Twitch, please tap into to the YouTube channel. I do want to do a whole revamp on the channel because I don't want to just keep talking about sports. I feel like there's so many different things that I could talk about. And honestly, that has been holding me back for a long time because I've been very conflicted about, covering, certain things on the channel. But you know what? I just got to learn to start being myself, man. I can't be scared to talk about certain things, over fear of being canceled and whatnot. So, I don't care anymore, man. I'm just going to be myself. I'm going to talk about, different things, but obviously I'm going to talk about my interests because sports isn't going anywhere. And I want to let you guys know sports literally isn't going anywhere. And I know I still have a bunch of things that I made promise to you guys. Trust me, I had some prizes that I do still have, or I still have to give away. Trust me, it's going to come. I just got to get organized with all, with everything. It's just a lot. It's just a lot on my plate, right? But trust and believe, man. I love coming on here and streaming and talk about whatever. You guys give me, whenever you guys come on here, you show me love, or at least the people that come on here and show me love. But just and believe, man. I love this, man. I love this. Right, so it ain't going anywhere. I ain't going anywhere, right? But expect, a Rumble and a Kick account, to be coming here in the near future, right? So thank you guys for tapping into Cash Media. I appreciate you guys once again. Remember, hit that like and subscribe button so you guys can get notifications whenever I live stream in the future. I do debate episodes, debate sessions, or debate streams in the future. So look out for that. And then tap in again next time. So thank you guys once again. And this is Cash Media. And have a wonderful, wonderful day.